So welcome to another Gamedev Insights, and today I have the pleasure of hosting Guy Zaidenband. With hands-on experience across product and production roles, Guy has made waves in the digital gaming scene. Since joining Toya Games Studio as a VP of Product Management, he has been the brains behind its Roblox games, and his work led to the creation of Miraculous Roleplay, a hit game that pulled in over 1 million daily users and another 50 million new players in just 6 months. But Guy is not just about big ideas, though. He has always been at the heart of the studio's day to day, juggling art, game design, technical bits, and also business calls to keep things running smoothly. So, Guy, welcome to Game Dev Insights.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It's just juggling everything. Hi,
Yeah,
I'm
doesn't
Guy.
it? Doesn't it sound like really great, like to hear other people talking about you? Don't you feel?
Depends. It really depends. But yeah, it's like hearing it from a side. Yeah, I did do that. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
like I
I
did do
did.
that.
I did do that. I have meaning now. Yes. Hello.
Awesome. So, Guy, let's talk more about like the things that you did during
Yeah.
your throughout your career. So I think it would be So let's open with you actually telling us more about your career path. Like how did you actually start off like in the games industry as a product manager.
Yeah. So actually, that was, I think, over 20 years ago. I started as a QA engineer in a company doing video games. I think it was one of like the first things, like one of the first companies that I had the chance to work for, and I think I remember that I was like the coolest guy in the room because like between my friends, because I was playing video games and getting paid for that. So I started as a QA, and I moved around inside the company into a role of marketing. Since I was the gamer, and it was like the gamer industry, so I was like the face talking to publishers, and I quickly joined the marketing department and basically became publisher relations manager kind of guy. That was like 6 years around until I was like 27. And then I just like, I was working with so many game developers and publishers. I just wanted to be a part of it myself. I wanted to move out of marketing. I moved to Amsterdam. I studied game design because there was no school in Israel for game design, and basically learned game development. And started working with a few startups. I had a chance to work with Barcelona FC, the club, creating a mobile game for them, being a producer, and really being responsible for a team developing developing an amazing game. I think it was in Unity back in the day. Um, and from that, I joined Ilion as a product manager. I was responsible for Bubble Shooter. So for 3.5 years, I was working on casual games, free to play. And then I had the chance to join Toya and really move into Roblox, which was something completely new. Um, and by then, I was already doing product work for about 6, 7 years. And I had to do a lot of research. And Toya was like join like this incredible universe, this metaverse that's called Roblox, and nobody really knew a lot about it. So there was like a lot of research to be done. So it was, I think it was like an insane 20-year
Yeah,
career
this
situation.
was real. Yeah, like this is actually like a great story because we always hear about how tough it is to actually enter the industry,
Hmm.
and how a very common path is actually starting and let's put it like this, like support departments, like QA,
Yeah.
marketing, and then working your way up to actually up or into get the development itself. But yeah, like this, I mean, obviously your path sounds like a path of constant learning. And
Yeah.
so could you tell us more about what are like the most like crucial skills that you have that you actually have learned and have developed like along your way that that actually brought you to the to the VP of product role.
Yeah. So I think that there was like a lot of learning in that process as well. But I think that, like, from my perspective, it was first of all having the ability to see everything from the marketing side and really understand like the business part of things. And I think that's how it connected from going into game design into like becoming the product manager, kind of like the person who communicates between the outside world and the creative team, the development team. But a lot of people that I have interviewed for product roles and stuff like that, we usually come from a tech support or QA or some kind of like or definitely being a part of like the development cycle. So like we usually are on that support, on that some kind of like point in that frame that we have this vision that we can see what is happening in the whole process, and then getting to a point where we decide that we want to be the people managing the process itself and managing the product. Yeah.
Do you feel that your like official education, so these like game design studies were like crucial for your development? Because this is like the question that we really discuss, that we discuss often.
Yeah.
Like are the is the educational system like good and programs and courses, like are they like good enough? Are they actually following the market trends? Is it like worth spending, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years in an institution, like
Yeah.
so, and what way to pursue?
I think the idea behind that concept, I think for a lot of people that I saw, is self-confidence in a way. And self-confidence in a way that being responsible for the product, you need to look at things from like a wide perspective. And having the tools in your arsenal or having the experience in your arsenal are both just things that you want to harness when you're making decisions, when you're setting priorities. So you want to have the education, and you can get it through working, and you can get it through education, basically through working or education. I usually, like, when I get asked, and I get asked a lot about like, how do you start to like hire juniors, or how do you get to a pile of CVs and like which ones you want. And I'm like, one of like the main thing that I'm looking for is people who worked on games and have experienced actually working on the games, or people who have already published games and released something. And it could be just like nonsense that you've done as part of the education that you were getting. But like, I think taking the tools, taking the knowledge, taking the experience, whatever it is, and actually doing stuff with it is kind of like the difference point. So I guess it's between like actually doing and like the self-confidence of having those tools. So both options are completely balanced between them. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, thanks. And thank you so much for like moving the conversation into this actually hiring part, because that's something that
Slowly.
that we are all like interested in. So you already mentioned so yeah, you already described like how you actually like what's like the most important thing for you when you are screening CVs. um but could you tell us like anything more anything more about it, like about like about your like process, what makes a what makes like a person stand out? What are like some good practices that you have that you
Mhm.
have like encountered and actually started applying in your in your hiring process? And also like let's discuss some bad practices that you have that you have encountered and learned from, or are still noticing that candidates or or other companies are
Yeah,
uh are doing.
I think this yeah, this could be like good ideas, bad ideas on like so many different levels. And I think it also connected with the fact that right now, for example, in the current state, or like the last few years, I was mostly like doing hiring and expanding the Toya team, and Toya itself was like expanding. So I got to And Ilion, where I was working before that, was also doing the same like expansion from about 20 employees to 120 within a year and a half. Toya was also expanding from just like, us 6 people in one room to like a company. Um, and I think that like during those kind of like stages, you're looking for different things in your CV, and especially for a product manager. Product manager, um, the role itself, it just can mean that you're not doing really anything of the development itself, yet you are there to do everything and anything that is needed in order to support. And that's mostly like it's true mostly for like small units and teams and small companies where you have like 6 to like 10 people and up to like 50 people, and you don't have a person doing any like every position. So somebody has to be the person looking at the wide picture and helping where it's needed and stuff like that. Adding to that the fact that getting people with experience, getting new people and that have experience in Roblox is like became almost impossible, and we had to make a decision where we need to hire people without experience in Roblox, and then you have to actually try to understand from a CV. Which is impossible. So probably what you want to have is like a meeting and a discussion with almost every person that you can about like how does their learning process work and how interested they are in learning a new platform, and really getting to like a point where you're mostly just like examining if like mentally that person will be a good fit for the company. So it's like trying to see in your CV if you had jumped from like roles to different roles within the same company, talking a little bit about how adjustable you are to like different situations, and then also like asking the candidate if they liked those kind of changes. Like sometimes changes can happen because like you love the product so much, so today you're doing the audio, or something like that, or today you're working on an Excel sheet just like punching in numbers or stuff like that, just because you are that part of like the product. So seeing that the person is okay with those kind of changes, that he sees kind of like the whole picture, and those kind of things are like things that we were trying to notice, and actually see if we have people who are like more interested in like kind of like learning and adjusting and seeing the big picture.
Are there maybe like any bad practices that you have that you have like encountered in this in
Uh,
these processes, regarding regarding the person's CV, or the way that they answer questions, like, so is there any advice that you can share with them regarding certain behavior, regarding which behaviors like at an interview could be better?
I really like. I am like the worst person to ask that. I usually don't like take anything as like negative or try to get like you get to meet the person for the first time and you probably don't know him. I do had a lot of like occasion where it's like normal to me that as a product manager, people try to come up with like, how can I help you on our first meeting in our like in intro interview, and like what I am trying to see is like what kind of a person you are, and like what's your thinking habits and like your personality, and like how are you adjusting to product, because product is mostly communication. And they were mostly coming from like, we have played your game and this is what we think you should change, and kind of like kind of like noticed me, kind of like tried to see like I know something, and I'm like, thank you for the great game design suggestions or like UX suggestions, but like so I was trying to get with like people who usually come up with those kind of things into like seeing how like their thinking process went, to like why do you think this should change, and kind of like try to get more positive out of that experience. But I guess like from that side, I do not expect someone to understand like the complete the complete catalog and the complete insights of why we took every decision with a game. So I don't think it's a bad practice, but it's usually something that I noticed, and I'm like putting it aside and going like, okay, thank you for your feedback, but let's go back to the interview. Yeah.
I get it. This is the feedback box. You can
Yeah,
put.
it's
Yeah.
got, it's like, thank you very much. Yes. Yeah.
Cool. And are there any, are there like any like methodologies that you have like implemented, that you have been using, that actually help you be better at your like thought process, that actually help you actually see the entire picture, and
Mhm.
work as efficiently on spreadsheets, on audio, on marketing, all while managing a team.
I think, yeah, I think, well, in all of those situations, what you're doing is growing from like a small team to a large team. And I think methodology wise, first of all, like we always, like all of us, we work in Scrum and we work in agile development, and the way we do our own sprints is like we see what kind of like fits the team itself, and trying to like get feedback and get like as much like retro meetings and communication to kind of like take kind of like this adjustable methodology, but like actually understand what is fitting to the team itself. So it's a lot about communication. I think there's not like any smart methodology that I can like say that that's like the system you want to do. But what you want to have is like a lot of pens, and you want to have like a lot of like drawing helping materials, and you want people to be able to express their idea in like the best way it's possible. And also, I don't think that you should, you know, a part of like growing is thinking about like the processes you need. And I think that like a big help for us, or like a big situation where I was like looking towards, um, is seeing when problems start to reoccur, instead of trying to like find a way to create some kind of like a process for the whole team to work. Is kind of like see what problems become a day-to-day thing, and then those kind of things are what you want to create some kind of like a process around. We used some kind of like a standard operation process, which is just like, okay, once we start hitting the same problem over and over again, we want to create some kind of a process to feel that thing that won't happen again. Having like those retro meetings. I also used a book that I really like, that it's called Sprint. It's basically a really good product management book, which is kind of like how to break down any goal that you want into like sub goals, and actually like limit the time of like, so you have like brainstorming meetings, but actually like limiting the time between the thought process and the doing process, and kind of like making sure that they're small enough that you don't invest too much time in doing something you don't know what's going to be the result, or you spend too much time thinking about something instead of like doing it, and kind of like working on what was actually happening, and not what kind of like the team was like over and over discussing again and again. So keeping things short, keeping iterations, I think that's kind of, and finding your own way, because we're not talking about like 300, 400 employees. We're talking about like companies who are growing from like 10, 20 to 100.
So yeah, so since you joined Toya, you have almost like quadrupled in size, and also like in your previous company, the number of employees grew to 120,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So could you tell me more about like the process of like how do you actually like come to this decision, like, okay, so like now we
Yeah.
need to like grow our team, and this amount of time, these are these are the profiles that we need, this is how we will work. So how do you make that decision and make sure that like everybody who is on the team like is aligned on this vision and this plan?
Um, yeah, I want to say that it's a smooth process. It's not a smooth process. It's pain mostly, and yeah, it's like the normal connection to that will be like growing pains, right? But it does come to a point where you can't do everything, and you want people to do what they need to do, and you have to like hire someone to get a specific role in a specific build. And then there's the whole like communication part of it, where like they need to start like fitting everything. I think one of like the big challenges is not getting the results, or like cutting down on the performance of the company while growing the company. And that's something that I think that I can still do better. I think that there's a lot of things in Toya over the last 4 years that I have like encountered for the first time. So I'm just like just learning from process. I would just say that if when you're trying to estimate development time, and you always get to a point where like, oh, like it took double the time. So I would just definitely say that like when you're trying to expand over 100% of your own size within a time frame, like it will take double the time. Having only just this communication and having like these processes, let's say that in the beginning it's fine to have like a chat every morning, but when you have like 50 people, it becomes a logistical problem. So those kind of things are things that like you get hit for the first time and going like, oh, that's completely different, that's something new. So I think you need to be very careful with your time, and you need to be very acceptable with your time, and maybe try to also create that kind of like iteration situation where like you're actually retroing about like how does the company grow. And I think that the second part of it was actually performance, because the company is hiring, and everybody needs to sit together and work together and understand the process. You still need to develop things, and you need to release things. And when there's more hands on each product, there's fear that is also coming into the picture. There's a lot of people doing things for the first time, or like there's like this share between people who have methodologies that worked in different companies or on different platforms, and now they have to adjust to this company, even though they came with experience. So like, we know what we're doing on mobile games, but now you have to adjust to Roblox. And I think this whole process becomes very messy, and it really contributes with like fear of releasing versions of, or like fear of not doing enough tests, or like generally fear of performance, and like having the performance drop. It's impossible to grow and not stumble, and it's impossible to run for the first time without stumble. So uh, basically what I learned that is working the best for us is actually just push things forward, release things as much as possible, learn from mistakes, and just kind of like just be acceptable of like of failure, and just like take it easy for like those first few months, because like there's a lot of people and there's a lot of emotions, and really, yeah, just like be gentle with this process.
Cool, thanks. Um, so you mentioned, yeah, you have been like mentioning it like throughout the conversation, that how actually unique, how developing games for Roblox is, has its own
Yeah.
challenges but also opportunities. So yeah, could you tell me more? Yeah, more about more about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Roblox is definitely its unique experience, and I think like if you're looking at like a product manager, she needs to do her target audience research, right? If you're like responsible for a new product and you're trying to get to the audience, then you need to kind of like research what is happening. And coming from mobile games, I saw a lot of like companies coming from different types of like industries, AAA mobile games, trying to release games on Roblox and failing for the first time, and basically trying to come up with like information and knowledge about how to develop games, and finding out that Roblox is completely different. Roblox has a few tens of millions of daily active users, and they kind of like form their own kind of like community. And that's really the closest I have ever seen to like a working live metaverse, where people are actually living there, communicating there. It's all connected between actually playing and actually just like living and becoming like an entity in Roblox. So doing the research for Roblox, I think was like insane to me, because that's kind of like the that world that we wanted to live in when we were kids, when we would have like another world to live in, and have our characters and have all of our games. um, and yeah, and then it became my job, and it became our job to kind of like try to translate those like points of like what does it mean to develop a game on Roblox to the game developers, to the company itself, and really live in this knowledge. I think the strongest connection we had is through the community, and really talking to the players, and really having our Discord channel with people, and having play tests, and really trying to get as many of like Toya's employees playing with the actual players, and kind of like having this communication as close as possible with the players.
Yeah, can you share, like an instance, where actually the community and their
Yeah,
feedback has, significantly influenced a
yeah,
Toya project?
definitely. In We had that happen in so many cases. I think that like one of the first time was with Miraculous Ladybug. I think that we had this discussion internally, and we had only like a few months to develop the game, and during that time we wanted to understand what is like the art direction that we're going with. And What we did is actually created kind of like a playtest where we created just like three different characters and three different styles, only with one room for each character, or one like environment for each character. So kind of like making sure that we're doing the research and getting the answer really quick is something that we just like went up to the community and created like a play test for like 45 minutes, I think, and actually gave the players the ability to choose what kind of like environment and what kind of like art direction they have, and that kind of like helped all the artists and helped a lot of questions that we had a lot of discussions about. And after that 45-minute session, I think everybody were like very aligned. So I think like the quickest, again, with the quickest way to get to the users is to release, to publish, to get the feedback as soon as possible. That was like one of the cases. I think another case where we had a different game. We had a game where you would develop a house, and then from that house you would go out and you would like go through a road and go to town and just do some playing in the town. So we've created kind of like a play test where we took 30 minutes and we decided that for 10 minutes we're going to ask the kids questions about the house, then about the road and the communication to the connection to the town, and then about the town. So we would have like three steps, three parts of that experience. We let the players start playing with their house and start editing their house and ask them questions about the house. And then we moved to the town. And what happened is that when we started asking about the road or about the town, some players were like, no, I'm still editing my house. I haven't gotten to the road yet. And that kind of like this whole session kind of like broke down, I guess, in a way of like we didn't get a lot of feedback about the town, but the feedback that we got was like, okay, obviously something is working with the house, and that helped us change the priorities of the next month of development based on the fact that something just automatically clicked. And that's not something that we could have gotten by data or something like that. There was just like somebody's, some of the players' feelings, and they were like, no, I'm just gonna stay in the house. And we're like, that's gold. Like that's like we should work on that. Yeah.
Toya being like a female founded, female led company, whose audience, whose community is
Hmm.
mostly, as you mentioned, like it's kids, it's teenagers, it's like, overall, like Toya, I would say, like, is very like big on like inclusivity, and actually like redefining redefining the gaming space, and the way that we actually look at games. So, and so there's a lot of, I would say, like social responsibility
Hmm.
towards your targeted audiences, in the way that you communicate, in the way, yeah. So how did you actually like approach that, and made sure that your values are enrooted in every in every step of the process of making the game, talking to the community, etc.
I think one of like the important things that you want to do in those situations, and make sure that you are aware of, is the diversity within the characters and within the options that you give in the game, and making sure that every player can see herself in in the characters, and there's no kind of like any kind of like bias, or kind of like the situations that we were trying to address. And that's making sure that you have um, less choice about gender, and generally like having every kind of like style and color and whatever you want to have, and every kind of like type of body size or body shape that you want to have inside the game. And that actually like mostly became just like a fun part of like avatar editing, which connects in a very beautiful way. But we did have one specific project that we were working with, Dove Self Esteem um, project, and we created a game called Super You Story. And in that game, when you get your superpowers and you're working in a team, something changes in your avatar physically. And you can see that like some of your team members have different types of like changes to their physical shapes, while the evil character in the game is mostly trying to harass you about like how you look, and trying to actually create um, something that is more resembling reality, but also resembling um, how you should behave, or more like how you should receive kind of like bullying, or like self-esteem issues as a character within the game, but actually like how you should accept those in kind of like real life. So being aware that you have representation for like most of what is happening in reality, and not just some kind of like a fake structure of some Photoshop situation, and also making sure that we pass on the messages. And that was what's important in that situation, is that bullying is happening in a certain way, and you shouldn't be, you should be able to arm yourself with a way to protect yourself from that, or at least understand the situation, and not take that as like as a negative thing. And I think that was what we actually, I think we accomplished that with that game, which was a beautiful part. Um, yeah. So
Okay, cool. Another question, yeah. And also the diversity is has also like been reflected in Toya's team structure. So this is like a topic that we have been talking
yeah,
about like a lot about like how how studios can be more um, can
yeah,
actually like adjust their practices to be more diversity friendly. So yeah,
yeah.
to put it that way. So could you like put that could you possibly share like any any actions, or that that you as a part of Toya have taken to ensure that you foster this culture of openness and being like super respectful and like very accepting of
Yep. So
of others.
so I would want to say that I had I would want to say that I had this as like my leading agenda, like coming to Toya from the beginning, but mostly like, but it wasn't. My eyes were opened up during the process in Toya, and I think that's like mostly mostly Anat, the CEO of Toya, is like responsibility, and like she was like leading the way for all of that. Um, because like when we started hiring people, and when we started like doing the game design post the research, I realized that there's a lot of things that I did not notice, and they were clear to me as like, yeah, this is A to B, this is fine. Like we'll just we'll get some CVs, and we'll get some new employees, and we'll get some product managers, and those kind of things, and like everything is normal, everything is fine. And then I realized I have seven white, blonde, blue haired characters in the game, and I had, I think, struggling for like a single digit number of female candidates, while we could have like been swimming in like over, tens of male candidates. And that then became noticeable to me that this is a situation. And I understand that people looking at us also in social media and like in Discord will notice that like a game studio usually is constructed of like the male game developers, and making sure that they see that there's female game developers, and seeing that can only help solve a problem that I didn't even saw from my narrow perspective until I joined Toya. Yeah, so it's I'm seeing different things today.
Okay, so being open to being open to actually see to accept
So
other people's
yeah, so
perspective on things.
yeah, and to answer your questions, like basically, yeah, I think that's for me that was enough, and I think that for a lot of people that was enough to just like make that change, because once the team is has diversity, and once you like start communicating with those people like on a day-to-day basis, and like you have like fun time together, but you also have like work discussions, and you're basically like also in a real life meet that's like um, you realize that you have not seen a lot of the things in the picture that you're now seeing. So there was no process in my mind that was automatic, like that was not automatically, that was pre-written. But because that started to happen, things happened automatically, and like people look at the world. I hope that like Roblox players who have played our games, but also Toya's employees, have a different perspective now.
Okay, awesome, thanks. And speaking of different perspectives and changes in the game development space, are there any emerging like up and coming like changes, emerging trends that you are like seeing, and that you are like now preparing for those?
I think that yeah, it's I don't know, to be honest. From what I'm seeing right now, I think that the world should be moving much more toward games or metaverses like Roblox. And I know that it's a buzzword as well, but to see the theory behind it, and making sure that everything is connected in a multiplayer kind of situation where you also have this identity of yourself within this world, is going to just like change basically how entertainment is defined. I don't think it could be defined as like a single kind of like linear situation. um, so I think it's going to be a big mash of everything. So I have no idea how it's going to look. It's probably like a tasty pizza with like 10,000 different types of
Yeah,
toppings
different. Yeah. Pepperoni, pineapple,
in
and Nutella spread. But yeah, we'll
in
keep an
different
open mind.
in different dimensions as well. Same pizza in different dimensions. Yes, have no idea.
Okay, but like I'm pretty sure that with all like the skills that you have acquired, and that you keep you keep like emphasizing like this ability to adjust.
Yeah,
That you should be fine with all these pizzas that are already available, or
yeah.
that are yet to.
Just keep an open mind. Just keep an open mind.
Awesome, thanks guy.
Thank you.
So really throughout our conversation, I think that you have shared some really crucial advice, like for all game developers out there, whether they want to, no matter like the platform that they want to work on. I think that the advice that you have given is like is universal. um but but like for the end of our conversation, I wanted to ask you, what is like the most valuable piece of advice that you have gotten in your career,
Hmm.
and And yeah, would you like to pass it to us?
Yeah, I think like aside from my career within like those 20 years, there were also weekends, and on the weekends I would DJ.
Oh,
Yeah.
a man of
So
many talents.
I, yes, I am horrible, and I have
Were you
I
playing? Sorry, were you playing only like video games OSTs?
yeah, definitely. My first way of like getting new music was through video games. That's why I like everything is metal. Um, but yeah, anyway, so I think that like a big part of like DJing at like clubs, or like at least being like a part of clubs, is understanding the audience that is coming tonight and kind of like reading the audience. And I think that whether it's development or whether it's like research, it's the audience. Like you need to know the players. You need to know Roblox players, or you need to know the genre of games that you are currently working on. You need to know those players, and they're probably going to be the people guiding your development, not not the ideas you have in the room of you 6 people by yourselves up to like 20, 60 people. Still, you need to communicate with the audience, and the best way to do that as well is to release things. To release as a product manager, you want to release iterations, you want to release beta versions, and that's something that's happening on Roblox all the time. And you want to cancel the fear out. You want to release dirty versions that things are breaking. Yeah, and not just like keep that thing happening inside your brain and inside the team itself. You get much more information from real users.
Oh, and awesome, Guy. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. It's really been great that you have been our guest, and that you have like shared this many like nuggets of wisdom
Thank
with
you.
our audiences.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
I am a nuggets of wisdom kind of guy. Thank you very much for inviting me.